to call out one thing. Last week was number 150. So, dude, 150 times we've been doing this Friday Mastermind. So, dude, appreciate you.
Hey, man, it's been fun.
Yeah, so this is our 150 Friday Mastermind, where either both Todd and I have been here or we've made sure someone is here to help the mortgage coach community optimize productivity. So today's guest, we have Jonathan Roche. Jonathan, I don't even know how to describe this guy other than if you see him on stage, you'll want to work out more. You'll want to be your best. If you meet him in person, I mean, like, I'm still thinking of the time, Jonathan, when we were like face to face and you're just looking at me and like, Dave, you're an athlete. I want to coach you. And just like your energy, dude, is contagious. So it's good to have you, man.
Yeah, thanks. Blessed to be here.
But by the way, how would you describe yourself? Like, what are you? What do you do besides just make people better?
Simplest terms, I try to help people shift into a state of peak performance, personally and professionally. How do you show up to life? The vehicle might be fitness, weight loss, health, but it's really what's your vibe? When you enter a room, even before you speak, what are people feeling? And, I've been blessed to be part of Todd Duncan's Sales Mastery. It's my 5th year being a keynote speaker there. I don't know the X's and O's of the execution. Obviously, that's your skill set and what Todd helps the audience with. But I'm big on helping people, regardless of their industry, realize probably the number one vehicle as far as growth and the families they impact and who they serve, most importantly, their own family, is their own vibe. How do you show up? What's your energy? And what I call earning your awesome, which, I'm from Boston, so that's a Boston slang word, but you could say earning your fantastic. How do you show up in a way where someone asks you how you're doing and your answer is so different and non-traditional? So most people say, I show up and I go, hey, Todd, how you doing? And you go, I'm good, or I'm great, or okay. So how do we get you in a state where you say awesome or fantastic? And what does that lead to as far as breaking that pattern? It's almost like we don't hear people when we say, how are you doing? And then how does that instigate the conversations with people that maybe you would not have had because they're almost intrigued with your vibe? I have at least 2 conversations a week from people when I say awesome. The key is you can't just say it. You've got to earn that state through your water and your sleep and your nutrients and your positive content like this show. And then that way, when someone asks you, you're not trying to fumble your way through. They ask you how you're doing. You go, I'm awesome. And then a lot of people will say, how did you get to that?
So one thing we got to make real clear, dude. So I'm from Denver and I went to high school, was raised in Huntington Beach. And dude, awesome is not a Boston thing. Awesome is it's a tribe though, man. So I love that. And then we've got, Muddy, who I think is his company called Unlocking Awesomeness. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah. He's a cool dude.
He is a cool dude. And I know you've had a real impact on his life. Prior to this call, I asked him to forward me over the sketch. And he was literally saying, I'm on my way home to go work out with you. And he actually, we had a little text chat and he's like, I've never been a big workout guy, but he's been at Mastery for 3 years. You've been on stage for 5 years and you have inspired him to take it to a new level. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Well, yeah. Dave, if you don't mind, I would like to share a story that kind of paints this.
Time out. Before you do that, I want to make sure we introduce our other guests real quick. We've got Ryan Hills and RC. What's up, Ryan and RC?
What's up, Dave? How's it going? Thanks for having us on.
What's up, buddy?
Good, man. Good. So guys, you were going to be the first, go first, but because you guys literally came sliding in at the last, we're already like.
You had to call it out, Dave.
Yeah. So you guys cool with
Absolutely.
Jonathan, we're going to go about 20 minutes with Jonathan, and we're going to go about 20 with you, and then we're just going to mix it up and all talk about
Sounds
the
awesome.
that we got. Awesome. So let's see how many times throughout this call we can use the word awesome, but in a cool way, not overplaying it. All right. So Jonathan, you had a story to tell. Go for it, man.
Yeah. So real quick, a lot of people, when it comes to fitness, weight loss, health, and showing up, their vibe, they get so stuck on trying to build that exercise habit, trying to build those nutritional habits. And yes, those are important, but the mindset is where you win. It's kind of like you win here, and then that unlocks the thought process that leads to taking consistent, inspired action on your exercise and your nutrition, sleep patterns, those other things that fuel personal excellence. So if someone said to me, you have 30 seconds, you spent almost 20 years helping people get fit, drop weight, and move into this state of peak performance, 30 seconds, what's the number one thing? The number one thing is that daily choice each morning of which voice you're going to listen to in your head, your positive voice or your negative voice. And that may sound crazy, but when you listen to your positive voice, you go into the day almost with this state of gratitude around opportunity. How many families can we impact today? But if you do not pick that voice, you almost by default pick your negative voice. And then all of a sudden you get in that whole, there's a problem with one of those deals went south, or we forgot to lock the Joneses in and now the rates moved and the guy's all fired up, or you're in this state of looking at what's going wrong versus what's going right. So I like to say the first key habit is each morning being intentional and purposeful around, I'm going to listen to my positive voice, and I'm going to focus on what's right during my day.
Love that. Guys, anything you want to add to that? Todd, go first.
Well, I always think that you got to start with gratitude. So I love that you brought that up. And, it's interesting to see that it's by default, if you don't proactively select positive, then you've got negative. I would love you mentioned sleep before. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on sleep and how that plays in as a priority and how to get better sleep, because I feel like that's where a lot of people are struggling right now.
Yeah, the sleep thing's key, particularly as we get a little older. And I don't mean we're old, you guys, but we're not in our 20s anymore. So what happens, particularly if you think of the mortgage space, and right now what's happened, a lot of opportunity, you got to go, you got to hit, we've got to get these refis done. What happens if the window is closed? So people get in this state where I wouldn't say they're surviving, but they're grinding and they're going. And one of the things that they compromise is their sleep, because they'll get to it later. But the reality is when you keep your sleep at, I think, at least 7 hours, some people need 8, then you show up differently, your vibe's different, and the pace in which you operate during the day and move through challenges, but more importantly, how do you pounce on opportunities? All of that is elevated when you have the right rest. And when you don't have the right rest, you show up, you're not necessarily missing the gear, but you're just not locked in. And then people can feel that, most importantly, your home team, but also your team. If you're in an office, you're within a team within the mortgage industry, they can sense that. So you'd think you don't have the time to get those 7 hours, but when you commit to that, that is one of the game changers as far as your mindset and how you show up.
No, and I love that.
Hey, real quick, Todd, how many hours of sleep do you need to be your best?
Right now it's about 7.5 is what I shoot for, and slightly more recently.
Ryan and RC, how much do you guys need to be your best?
I wish I knew. I'm probably the worst at this because I'm very reactionary. So I don't really have a strategy around this. And it shows because I'm really tired today. But the good news is, Jonathan was talking about mindset. And I don't think you can get to anybody's strengths, including Jonathan's, as far as leveraging somebody like that until the mindset's changed. So for me, I've wanted to get in better shape for 7, 8, 9 years.
Yeah.
And until recently, just 2 months ago, my mind wasn't really there to do the daily, weekly activities that were necessary. And so for me, not to get vulnerable or open, but I was just sick of being self-conscious. And so until my mind got, to that point of going, okay, well, stop being self-conscious at the pool or at the beach. You can change it. This is a problem you can fix, Ryan. That's when my mind changed. And for 60 days now, it's not a whole lot, but I've been eating better. I got a workout routine finally. So I don't know, Jonathan, this is your world. It's not mine. How do we get to that mindset shift sooner? For me, that's what it was, but I don't know about for other people, what that trigger is.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think for a lot of people, they get to the point that you were talking about, Ryan, where you just kind of feel like, it wasn't your exact terminology, but almost like you're a shadow of who you can be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm about to say, some of you may be like, what? But if the outside world is telling you, awesome, Ryan, or, RC, you're cranking it, look what's happening with your business, you kind of get in this yeah. And then you don't realize Yeah, but you're only at a 7 or an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10. It doesn't matter what the outside world's telling you. How do you still elevate? How do you get hungry for the next level? I'm trying to do this. I'm blessed. I'll be running my 25th straight Boston Marathon in April, and I'm going to try to break 3 hours. And that goal is ridiculous because my quickest time there is 3:12. In this, we could do a whole show on this, but ridiculously large goals call for a complete reevaluation of how you show up. So if I listen to the outside world, everyone, oh, you've done all these marathons and you're blessed to speak on this event. But if I know to myself that I'm an 8, why would I gift an 8 to my beautiful wife and my kids when I know there's a 10 in there?
Yeah.
And then how do you set lofty enough goals to get your juices flowing? You think of the audience we have here. How many more families you get to impact in 2020? If it's 20% more than 2019, you're probably not going to get out of bed any earlier in 20 than you did in 19. But if you say, I think we can 2x the amount of families we serve, who's in on that? And then deliver that in an authentic, energized, powerful, we're taking them out and get on my back way. That's when the team says, Ryan's kind of lost his mind, but I think based on what he's communicating, if we all step out and really analyze how we're showing up, how we engage clients, how we do our videos, what's our prep for our videos. I'm fired up to listen to you guys share your brilliance, because my thing is, if I can guide the audience to get into this state of, you know what, I've got to orchestrate the positivity, the vibe, and then I follow your blueprint of videos and how you touch people, that 1-2 combination, game over. So I'm kind of way off to the side, Ryan, on your question, but it's really just stepping out and looking in and saying, I know there's a better version of me in there. What am I going to start doing to earn him or her?
Yeah, that we shot a show a while back called the 4 burner theory, which isn't our theory. It's a really good one if people want to Google it. But I kind of justified why I wasn't in better shape because, well, I'm giving my best professionally. And so, of course, I'm going to be, chubby Ryan. And it was a justification. It was flat out. I had enough time in the day to do both. But for a long time, to your point, I'm doing good professionally, right? Things are going well. We're excelling. And for whatever reason, for me, my burner was kind of high in the professional, but personally it was really, really low. It's kind of like Tiger Woods. He was back in the day when he got in trouble, amazing golfer. He poured everything into that. He was a horrible husband at that time.
Sure.
So how do we balance that? And I open to coaching on that, to truly find balance. And it doesn't mean I have to take away professionally, which is what I'm learning right now over the last 60 days. I don't have to take away effort professionally to give it to me personally. Not to just my family and my wife and my kids, but to me. I give time to me to get in better shape. So that's been a struggle for me. Definitely open to coaching, how to actually balance that better work-life balance. But I'm kind of working through that.
Yeah. And I would say for I'm a mountaineer, so I try to put a big audacious goal. So every year I'm going to climb a big mountain, 14 to 19,000 feet tall. And that requires me to change my behaviors, right? And so that's big enough for me where I know that I don't want to look stupid, so I'll publicly put that out to my sphere of influence. So every single time I run across Dave's like, hey, what mountain are you climbing next? And I'm like, if I'm going to default to just that negative mindset, that negative energy, and just default to work, urgency, or do I look back at some of the best memories of my life and seeing the summits and looking across the country from totally different perspectives? Well, it took a lot of behavior to get there, and it's just social accountability. That's what triggers me. As far as sleep, I don't get as much sleep as I probably should, but I want more out of life than sleep right now. I respect that. I know I need to learn and get better at that, but
I'm sure you can coach you up on that last
thing.
Hey, Jonathan, so let's coach these guys up and everybody on one. I think we've crushed sleep. Guys, first of all, know how much sleep you need. I need 7 hours. I'm obsessed about getting my 7 hours. And, no matter what time I go to bed, I can, grind it out and play hurt with a 4-hour sleep night or a 5-hour, but not sustainably. So push to everybody in the community. It really does start with sleep. And so make sure you're getting whatever that number is for you. Jonathan, 2 things I want to crush over the next 5 minutes. And then again, you can have more things to share. We're going to hear these guys for 20, but 2 things. One, some direction and ideas on how to grow our why, when you talk to me, you talk to me in a certain way to grow that why. And I know with Muddy, he's like, I'm an athlete, and you're really driving that. And then I would love if you could also, before you close out, give us some things that we could do as, office workers that we could do in our office that you just think are good, smart things for productive, effective executives to do during the workday. So rock it out.
Awesome. So first off, real quick for Ryan, and it's RC, correct?
Yes, sir.
So when you think of this whole, I'll sleep later, or, I can't get to it, I've got to go grind. I think life is a two-person race. There's the grinder that gets out of bed and gets to the office or gets in the calls or gets in the emails and then gets a head start on the day because there's too much going on. And then the second person in the race is the nurturer that is purposeful and intentional about listening to the positive voice, getting their water, getting that morning workout, getting their vibe on, and then goes to work. Again, the race is you then go hunt down the person that rushed off for the office. And if you can think of this race each day, you probably won't catch him or her by noon, but you may catch them by noon, but I'm not a bettor, but if I was, I'd bet the house. You will catch him or her by 1 o'clock, maybe 2 at the absolute latest, because you're just executing through opportunities and pouncing on opportunities and working your way through challenges, and your team can feel that. And then here's the beauty of that situation. One, I think from a productivity standpoint, you trounce the first version of yourself. And then two, there's still energy in the bucket when you go home to serve the right team, the most important team, which is going home. What you don't want to do is have the bucket so empty that you crawl in and your little cutie daughter, my daughter's 4, comes up and she wants to hang, and me being at a 5 when I've been given a 10 to my clients all day. And I think a big part of that is you can nurture yourself out of the gate, get your vibe on, get your energy on, get your workout on, then you hunt down that second version of yourself. It somewhat answers a little bit some of what you're asking, Dave, as far as tactics.
Yep. Love that. No, that was a home run, man. What about a couple things that are just some of your favorite things that, executives could do throughout the day?
I think the first thing is manage your energy, not your time, and be in a perpetual state of watching your energy. It's super simple. What's your energy? 0 to 5. This is what I do with my coaching clients. What's your energy? And if you say you're a 4 or 5, don't change anything. Stay locked and loaded. Keep doing what you're doing. If it's a 3 or less, what do you need? You need a glass of water. You need a motivation video. You need to walk. Like, I suggest you should never sit down ever on the phone with anyone. They can feel it. Unless you're taking notes to a client, you can even do that standing. Get up, get moving, and then think in terms of how do you manage that energy level. And I think that's a key. And then don't overlook the little things. So you think, oh, you did your morning workout, Todd. You don't have to worry about getting extra steps in during the day. People that are truly at a world-class level, fitness, energy, vibe-wise, they're in this perpetual state of how do I fuel the vibe? How do I get that energy up?
That was awesome. Todd, any questions before we bring in and focus on RC and Ryan?
All right, so get up and walk around if you're 3 or less. What about, you talked earlier about nutrition and food. I mean, any kind of quick tips for someone on what they can have sitting on their desk to make sure they got energy throughout the day from a food perspective?
Well, planning is key. So if you get in a situation where you're in the office and you're trying to wing it, it can get pretty ugly. So I like to make sure that people plan their way through that, where they have healthy snacks available. They're in the, I'll pull one out right here. Big Bar from Costco. Super simple, nutrients wise. I won't get into the calories. I think it's like 150, but that's in my desk where I grab a piece of fruit, and then making sure you have that mid-morning, mid-afternoon snack. Where people get in trouble is they let 4 or 5 hours go by with no nutrients, and then they make poor choices and they eat too much at lunch or dinner. And they think they have a calorie problem. They don't. They have a math problem. Or it's not even a problem. It's a math opportunity, which is you have that mid-morning snack or mid-afternoon snack. You don't come into that meal like, I'm going to start tearing through here. You're in a better position to make better choices.
Love it. I'm such a nerd about this stuff. I could talk about it all day. So I'll hand it back to you, Dave, so I don't get off in the weeds on all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, what we should do, Todd, is let's plan to have Jonathan, if he's willing to do it, do a full Tuesday interview with either just you or him, or you, me, and him. But I mean, you are an example of someone who's killed it at a high level in business, and you kill it at a high level physically. from a fitness standpoint. And so I would love for you and him to go at it. Jonathan, would you be up for scheduling a Tuesday at 9?
Absolutely.
Where we do that? Okay.
Yeah.
So are you cool with that, Todd?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I would have nothing. That'd be a lot of fun.
Okay. So that's going to happen. So, because guys, let's transition. And we're going to talk more about fitness. So if you're on this live and you have questions for Jonathan, put them down below. Todd or I will try to bring them into the conversation. And if we don't get them answered live, we'll get them answered afterwards. So I asked Ryan and RC to be on this call because these guys are ballers. You know, when it comes to creating video content that is done at a super high level of a production value, I think they're, you know, if not the best, among the best in the industry. And for me, they're the best. I don't know of better content. I'm a fan. I watched their show. We did a show last week. What was the title of that? We talked about the wealth team and how to be a black belt mortgage advisor. But how'd you guys label it?
What does it mean to become the captain of the wealth team?
Cool.
Yep.
So I want to talk about two things with you guys right now. You know, Ryan, when you reached out to me and you said, Dave, we've got an idea. We want to do this video. And we were brainstorming. Why did you lock into captain of the wealth team? So let's talk a little bit about that. And then let's get into how to create badass videos.
What's cool is I love how the video turned out, but I'm going to share a story that is not going to sound all that awesome, but I'm sharing it because it's a real easy way to create really awesome content. Because if you see the show, it's shot in a style that I'm super proud of, because 10 years doing content, we're still evolving and still doing really cool stuff. So I love comedians in cars getting coffee. There's really nice, super tight, sexy shots of the baristas and the coffee and all the wood from all these cool coffee shops. And so I called Dave and said, hey, I got this idea. We had kind of talked about hooking up on a certain day. So this is only, guys, I don't know, 2-3 days in advance of shooting the show. So I had an idea. I grabbed RC and Aaron. I'm like, I think Dave's in town. I want to kind of do this fresh new thing, which is Dave loves coffee. Every time he travels, he takes a really cool picture of it.
Not every time, man. Not every time.
A lot, but it's cool. I like it.
Portland worthy.
It's interesting. So I was like, let's shoot this interview in this style. I had to show them what this show was, because they hadn't seen it before. It's on Netflix. If you guys haven't seen it, it's awesome. It's Seinfeld just interviewing other comedians, and they get to unpack their craft. And so it went from an idea, basically day one, I kind of had to bring them up to speed as far as how to stylistically shoot that. Day two, hey, Dave, you want to do this thing? And you're like, you're always down. Yes, of course. And then this is what I love. And I kind of highlighted in our videos, what are you passionate about right now? And you had it at the tip of your tongue. You're ready to go. And man, I'm really talking about captain of the wealth team and being a black belt in real estate and lending. And perfect. From just a simple, hey, we should do this thing. We set up the cameras. Yep. Dave meets us at the office. We drive over there and we unpack, both of those awesome concepts, and turned out to be a great show that's being shared. I've got so many emails and calls from CEOs on both the real estate and lending side that they've actually sent it out to their entire community and all their associates. I think there's so much more to unpack there. We kind of just talked about the concept in general, but, really unpacking each individual attribute of what it takes to be a black belt in real estate, a black belt in lending. I did throw out a challenge, and you agreed, hey, we've talked about a lot of the changes that are now here over the last couple of years at the REsource.tv. It's well documented. And we said, in the past, we said, hey, it's a great idea if you leverage this, if you leverage that now. And Dave, you agreed. Yep. It's a must, especially going into 2020 with all the changes in real estate and lending. It is an absolute must to become a black belt. And you have to know what that blueprint looks like to even start to become a black belt. And so that's why I think, that's another Tuesday worthy call. I know you're doing it across the nation right now, but maybe not so much for realtors. So maybe we can unpack it a little bit more for realtors in the future.
Agreed.
Yeah, no doubt. So Mortgage Coach community, if you haven't watched that interview, there'll be a link down below. If someone on my team is on this and you can put a link in comments, please do it. But check it out. It's, what is it, about 12 minutes? So it's pretty lean. And here's why you should watch it. One, the concept of being the captain of the wealth team, I think, is important. And I think the video does a nice job of just teeing up that topic.
Right.
You know, we didn't really lay out the whole what is a black belt in mortgage advice, but we teased that. I did an interview with Ryan Hill, one of America's most successful mortgage professionals, and we really broke down, what are the skills, what are the moves to doing that. But guys, check that out. If you're in the mortgage coach community, check it out. Also share that video. I think it's just an important message to get to the mortgage and real estate industry. So let's, first of all, Todd, anything you want to ask or add to that? Let's just say the content within the video, because I know you watched it. Anything you think we should cover before we go behind the scenes?
Well, I mean, I think the concept we know is great, right? The whole idea going into 2020, you're spot on, Dave. It's got to be part of what you're doing. You got to be a black belt and you got to be the captain of the wealth team. So I don't necessarily have specific questions on that, but I had people tell me who know because of our friendship, they wanted to make sure, like, tell Dave, like, that was one of the best videos. So Ryan, you did a great job of, I think, pulling out of Dave his best. And so I agree. You guys should be sharing that. If you haven't watched it, watch that video. I still think, though, when it comes to video, Ryan, you're so good at it, right? You got RC and you got your team there. How would you encourage someone who's struggling with that and afraid to get into it to jump in? Because no one's going to do it quite as cool as you do.
Yeah, I mean, just like working out, Jonathan will probably attest to this. You got to start somewhere. And that first workout, trust me, because I just started 60 days ago, sucks, man. I felt so bad about myself. I was taking rest every 5 minutes, but I got through it. And the second one was easier, and the third and the fourth. I mean, it's the same in video. If you look at our stuff 10 years ago,
it was horrible.
It was horrible. Yeah. And they're not all home runs, but you got to start, you got to commit, and it evolves, just like working out and being a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday. So does your content, the way you write. RC's abilities have gone through the roof over 10 years. Aaron, who's behind us, same thing. And you get refined as you continue to commit to this process of content creation, stylistically producing it and distributing it, which is a whole nother art that you guys could talk to RC about, like content distribution. Great, I got a nice video. How do I get people to watch it? Right. Great question to unpack, right? So just committing to that process. And it really isn't hard. Every time we travel, everybody talks about, like, how do you not have, it's 10 years. How come you haven't run out of content? Well, because it's everywhere. I know Dave would love for anybody in the mortgage coach community to share his slides and go take that, mold that into, like, hey, I could go teach this to realtors. I can pack the house with 80 realtors on what it means to be a black belt in real estate, right? And now you're actually working with them and collaborating on what that's going to look like for 2020 and moving on. That's how, our brands kind of work together, our resource and mortgage coach, to produce that video. Both Dave, myself, and RC, I'll speak for all of us, because I know just the quality of us. We don't care if you leverage our stuff to go, create your own content. Maybe you do your own video. Maybe it's a class that you start teaching. Maybe it's, your script as far as sitting down with new realtors that you want to attract. So content's everywhere. You just got to leverage it, make it your own. The news does the same thing. There's no original news. They're all just reporting each other's news. And so they're just kind of putting their own spin on that. So it's not like a new concept at all. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I was going to say, hey, Jonathan, your daughter's 4, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so she's probably like bouncing off the walls and has like a lot of creativity going, right? Like she literally has ideas and just creative, right? Isn't it funny that, like, as time goes on and we get older, we're like, I'm just not really creative. I'm more like a numbers person. I do the numbers and stuff. And so over time, just like humanity hardens us to think that we don't have any creative things. So if you are listening, you're like, I'm just not a creative person. I don't know what to say. We hear people say this all the time. Right? Well, then, okay, first take that as far as your vibe goes and say, okay, that's BS. I got to say I am creative. And then what did we do with the video? Okay, we just emulated something that was already working. So take the pressure off you. You don't have to be the creator of the masterful idea. Emulate what's already working. That's when people say, oh, RC, you're so creative. We're not necessarily creative. We're just emulating and executing on what's already working and taking our spin on it, like Ryan's saying, and bringing the passion and just being who you are and being like present while you're shooting the video. It's a big deal. Like you said, people can feel it,
So let's do this. I'm going to ask you guys one more question. Jonathan, I'm going to bring it to you after they answer it to ask a question. And then the last 20 minutes of this call, we'll just do free flow. But I want to do 2 things by the time this call's over with the 2 of you. And right now, I want you guys to unpack what did it take to do this video? Because this is highly produced. It's very creative. It's got great audio. It's got great video. It's got great editing. So I just want to make sure, like, call this the top of the mountain of a project for content that can be created. And then before the call's over, I want to make sure that, hey guys, if all you have is an iPhone or an Android, we unpack some like beginners ideas and strategies, but let's just start. Walk us through, and you don't need to however you want to do it. In RC, let's do it with you, because here's the deal, guys. I have been a guest on their show now for, I don't know, maybe 10 times. A lot of times I've been a guest over the course of many, many years. Mm-hmm. And Ryan is like a content creative scripting badass. And then RC is like a ninja at packaging it, editing it, and then promoting it in multiple platforms. So RC, give us you're the behind the scenes guy. What went into the production of this, both shooting it, editing it, and publishing it?
Sure. Yeah, I'll just say real quick, as we have good energy and we get momentum in our businesses, we were able to attract a really badass videographer as well. Aaron's on our team. He's phenomenal. He's the guy who puts the shows together these days as well, and I handle distribution. So working with your strengths as well. Obviously, I was able to do that for 9 years straight on every Friday.
Yep.
So, talking about that vibe that attracts your tribe, we wouldn't have been able to attract someone like this if we weren't creative and had good energy and believed in what we were doing, had great guests like you. So first I want to give a shout out to him because he's a phenomenal asset to our team and we really appreciate him. So secondly, I would say as far as a production standpoint goes, we had 3 cameras for this coffee shop. We had 2 microphones. I'm not sure if you can see these guys. And so those are our podcast mics. And obviously it was very loud there. So having a good quality microphone is a big deal. And so there's 3 shots. There's a shot with both Dave and Ryan, side profile. And then we had an interview shot across to Dave and to Ryan. So just let you guys know, all 3 of them are recording at the same time, capturing the conversation. And then from a production side, we can choose what angle connects with people the most, right? So if Dave says something really impactful and powerful, we can show Dave's energy, his passion, his charisma, his care for the customer, and that gets captured, right? And that's why everybody will say, oh, I loved your video, I watched it, right? So there's 2 parts to the video. Where did they watch it? That's distribution. People never think about, oh, I saw it here, and man, maybe my content should be available there. We just said we saw it, right? We never really process how we saw it. And then when you say, man, I love that, we never, as a viewer, watch and say, well, why did I love that, right? Like, was that a heartstring? Was it funny? Was it just really content heavy and thought inspiring, right? So you can kind of break your content into that heartstring, humor, or just that mental challenge and fortitude, kind of like that real peer-to-peer interaction. So I think that's really important for any video that we do, whether it's simple or complicated, to understand where do we watch videos and what type of stuff do we really connect with? Because we're all people. Video is just a vehicle to share our experiences and connect with people.
Okay, guys, put your questions down below. What editing software did you use?
We use Adobe Premiere.
Okay, Adobe Premiere.
Yep, and there's a simplified version called Adobe Premiere Rush. It's similar to Photoshop in video editing terms.
And you could have done this with either. I'll tell you from my perspective as like a participant, this was a total of, could have been in and out of there in 30 minutes. And I know that I did not, while you and I went out to dinner later that night, it was an hour of my time. So for me, there was no prep. I mean, we had a 15-minute conversation where, Dave, I want you to do this. What would you talk about? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, be at my office at this time. And I showed up at his office. We drove to the coffee shop. The same guy that kind of shot the interview was videotaping us as we walked up, which I thought was like cool, but I didn't know what was happening. I wasn't prepped, or when I did my little fist punch, I would have been a little cooler. I would have been like,
flex a little harder.
Yeah, man, I would have some savage gun. So I didn't know what was happening. And then I ordered my food and the guy was recording, but I didn't know, oh, this is going to be in the show. I didn't know any of that. And then there was this whole nerd out where he was doing the coffee being made. I had no idea that was happening. When I got my coffee and it was extra cute, I was just like, wow, man, this is a, pretty serious place. but I didn't know that you guys had prepped that. Like, obviously you had, everybody was in on the game but me. And then I sat down and I actually didn't know when the interview started. It wasn't like there was no prep. Ryan just started talking and I could kind of like, oh, this is it.
We're filming.
Yeah. So, and then we talked for 15 minutes, and I'm like, I'm out of there. So I just want you guys to, like, when you watch this video, know that the guy that got interviewed had little to no prep time. This could have been the mayor of the city. So they could have been like, hey, bring in the mayor of the city. This could have been an owner in a restaurant locally. There's all kinds of ways that they could have done this where they're being the digital mayor of their market. Mm-hmm. And then one last footnote for me, and then Jonathan, it's coming at you quickly here, is, well, RC, they now have a third guy on the team. It used to just be Ryan and RC. Yep. And for every mortgage guy on the call right now, or gal, this could be your kid, like my daughter, I'm 100%. Training her to do this stuff. This could be like the millennial that works at your office that's like an intern, but he's a video nerd, or he wants to be a video nerd. So like everybody watching this right now, while this was highly produced, it did require some time and investment. Like everybody could do this. Now, I don't think you could do it this quality because remember, these guys have been doing this for a long time. They got a lot of reps under their belt. They are black belts at creating this type of content. And, but you could do something. Absolutely. By the way, it might suck, but you could get to the point with reps where it wouldn't suck. Yep. So everybody could do this. That would be my takeaway. Jonathan, any questions for these guys?
No, I think it's brilliant. I think what that whole story around the right surrounding and vibe, but I think, and obviously RC and Ryan are experts in this, but I always like to say to people, when you're in the right state, mental state, I could drop you in the woods in North Dakota and you still would nail your health habits. And I feel like with video stuff, if you get someone right in their element of what they love, like I honestly feel like I'm just hanging out with you guys. Like we're doing stuff. I don't know how you guys can distribute. Doesn't matter. I'm hanging out with these cool guys. We're talking about video, talking about this. And when you get people in that state, I think that's part of what Ryan and RC tap into brilliance-wise. Obviously, they're masters at the surrounding and the beauty of the look and the feel and the professionalism. But I think that the intriguing thing for me is when you get someone right in their sweet spot of what they absolutely love, that's when all the magic happens. And I'm sure Ryan and RC have spent a decade with people in those magical moments. Yeah. But to me, it's highly inspiring.
Well, people
can't. Oh, go ahead, RC.
All right, I'm just gonna say people can't stop you when you love what you do, right? And so when you are fully invested, you know that nothing's actually stopping you in your head, and you believe deep down you have someone on your back and for them, and you have a co-partner's accountability, dude, you can drive forward very, very quickly in life and know that nothing's really stopping you. We have so many things in our head that stop us. They're all lies. It's all excuses to not execute. And, when you start to get some of that belief in you and you see a win after your first video, for your second video, a lead comes in, you help a family, whatever you choose to do with video and you start to believe it, man, you'll get, it releases endorphins in your body and you go head first into it. And I just want to inspire people to start, because there's nothing better than starting and getting that belief in yourself that you can do it, because literally the world's yours,
Love that. Todd, any questions for you for either one of these?
Two quick questions. One to follow up on your question, RC. RC, how long does it take you guys to cut a video like that? Because I know some people are wondering, now they know the software, they know the cameras, all that stuff. What's the time frame?
I think the time frame realistically is about 4 hours.
Okay, so it's a significant time. So guys, don't get overworked on that, right? Like he said, just start. And then Ryan, or RC, what do you guys have for any resources for someone who's just nervous about their speaking ability, other than just starting and doing it? Because I know you get better when you do that. But any other suggestions on books or videos or someone to follow that talks about public speaking?
I would say if you're nervous on like preparing a script or like trying to hold the audience's attention by yourself, this style, right, what we're doing right now, this podcast interview style is a great strategy. It's definitely has gained momentum over the last few years.
Yeah.
And so there's smart people all around us. If you're a realtor lender watching, grab each other, sit down, and you can leverage Zoom so there's not really any production behind it. The brilliance is in the content and what you're saying. And so just like Dave and I, there wasn't a whole lot of prep.
No.
But, you got two guys that are passionate about what they do. And ended up, I'm proud of what came out of that. It ended up being a really good video, but lenders and realtors can do that all day long. I'm starting to do that internally at Movement and pull our brilliant leaders into just a conversation. Like, how did you grow your business from 10 to 20 million? I mean, Dave's done this for years. It's a brilliant strategy. He's executing it perfectly. So absolutely. If you want to tiptoe into video, you don't want to have to produce, you don't want to have to write a script, hold the camera, hold the audience. Grab somebody else's, that's like your yin to your yang and just as smart, sit down and just start filming it. If you don't like it, you don't have to press send. It's not the end of the world, right? Like, you can redo it, you can do it again. But I think that's a great way just to start. And Dave has given the blueprint to the industry for years. And I'm sure, again, he doesn't mind you stealing his strategy, but I would encourage realtors and lenders to just start there.
And I would probably add to that, Dave, I'm cutting you off left and right today.
No, I was cutting out. Go. You're
all right. So, or if you don't have someone to communicate with and you have something on your screen that you want to share, oftentimes just talking through something you're seeing on your screen, recording your screen. Soapbox is a Chrome extension. It turns on your webcam, returns your screen. You hit save. You can edit it to go you on one side, film on the other. However you want to do it, you hit save. You copy and paste it into an email. You can do BombBomb. There's plenty of video tools out there. I would check out Wistia, WISTIA.com. It's a video business player, but their learning center is huge and very, very, very simplified. It has everything from iPhone videos to little iPhone microphones, all the way up to production stuff. So that's a huge resource. If anyone's looking to get into this and learning more and taking the time to do it, Wistia's learning center is top notch.
So guys, we have two of the most amazing video leaders in the mortgage and real estate space on the call right now. If you have questions, put them down below. If you're watching to the recording and you have a question, post it in our Facebook group, and I know RC will answer it. He loves to give value and impact back to people. So and that's the other thing. I want to shine a light on an interview I did yesterday morning with like no prep time, zero, and with nothing but an iPhone and Zoom. I interviewed Donald Miller, the author of StoryBrand. And I personally see StoryBrand as the most important marketing book a referral-based local anything should watch, or not watch. Well, I listen to it because I'm an audiobook guy, but read it, listen to it. I mean, just a playbook on how to crush it as a marketer. But I interviewed him, and like no production cost. I personally uploaded it into our YouTube channel. I mean, it was just easy. So guys, interviews like that are amazing. I would also push people to watch that interview. I think it might be the most important interview I've done this year for the mortgage coach community, because Donald Miller, who is a marketing ninja, like he's not a black belt. He's he's the ninja black belt. He actually gave a script, like I was talking about the total cost analysis and how showing the cost over time shows uncommon transparency. And then he jumped in. He's like, Dave, you're making every fee worksheet loan officer look like the villain. Like he really gives some good content. So check that out. It's a good example of just Zoom and an iPhone, no editing. Guys, anything you want to add to that?
Awesome.
You want to add either
awesome
content?
interview.
Yeah, I loved it.
It was really good. I've already had a few people text me to me. He's like, Hales, you got to watch this. I'm like, I already did. And I bought the book. Thanks, Dave, for the recommendation. But yeah, case in point to what I was referring to earlier. Content is king. That's what we've traveled the nation talking about, content and content being king. Content can trump production. I don't think that production can trump content. So if you have an iPhone and a Zoom, I feel like if your content's good enough, it can overcome the production. So don't get hung up on the fact that we have, tens of thousands of dollars in production quality with video and audio.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Especially nowadays, you got an iPhone, it's 4K, and there's so many attachments to that. So prioritize content if you're tiptoeing into this world. Just try to, I'm obsessive about will somebody get value out of this? If I don't believe it myself, and for 10 years and we've had to scrap shows,
yeah,
I'm not going to put it out. somebody has to get value out of this. I'm not just doing it because it's my strategy. It has to get value. And that's when we travel and speak, it's the same thing.
Absolutely.
We'll scrap a preloaded talk. Everything else is way more relevant. So prioritize content. It's everywhere. I don't know what just happened. Earthquake or something.
I think the cat just
No, that was Jonathan, man. He's got like his energy.
You got so excited.
I was kicking my chair in approval. You're like,
all right, guys. So we got 15 minutes left. Let's just round table, ask each other questions. Todd, any questions you have for one of these leaders?
Well, since Jonathan's making noise there, let's bring him back in. So, I love Ryan's transparency about being frustrated with the shape he was in. I mean, talk to frustration for a second, because I oftentimes feel like people have to push themselves to that level of frustration to make a change. Talk about mindset and how you would encourage someone else who's thinking that to jump in and better themselves.
I think the problem is people get in this comparison game. So they're comparing someone's finished story to their starting story. And then that's disempowering and leads them feeling less than they deserve to feel. And then that in and of itself is frustrating, because they see someone like you, they're like, oh my gosh, that guy Todd's locked and loaded. He looks like he's well rested and he probably nails his workouts. But at some point you started, just like Ryan's been talking about. So if you can realize that everyone needs to start somewhere and that you should start slow, and it's really about who you're going to become at the end, not necessarily the X's and O's each day, then you can do something remarkable. And then you can tap in, you can turn frustration into rocket fuel. Meaning, if you had a tremendous 2019, or you're in the middle of finishing off in 2019, where you had a big year as far as the amount of families you impacted in the mortgage space, if you're frustrated about your health and weight, instead of staying frustrated on that, think in terms of, all right, if my energy level is a 3 and we already trounced our numbers for this year, what happens when I'm a 5? And what I've seen, I'm blessed to do one-on-one coaching with a lot of the leaders in the mortgage space, is they can do incredible things as far as the amount of families they impact just by leveraging that health, fitness, weight frustration to then take action on it. And then that really translates to how they show up in the marketplace. I mean, one of the things I think Dave's heard me talk about this before is this concept of be ready for your $100,000 conversations. And it's not speaking specifically, Todd, to what you asked, but a lot of times these big conversations or these big moments in life, they come up and we don't even realize that they could have happened, or we miss it. Meaning you're at your daughter's soccer game on Saturday and you realize the top realtor in the region is the dad of one of the girls that your daughter's playing. And then at halftime, you're going to hopefully speak with him and say, hey, and introduce yourself. I'd love to have a meeting with you. But if you're hungover or you're in your sweatpants and you haven't shaved, you're not locked and loaded, you can't just pull that out of your bag. It's like you're either going to go over to that person with the right vibe and make the impact in that 2 or 3 minute conversation, get the meeting next week, or not. And so what I like to say is do the work in advance to move beyond frustration and be ready for when those conversations come up. And if you guys don't mind, I'd love to share a quick 2 or 3 minute story just from 2 weeks ago that really speaks to this idea of being ready for the $100,000 conversations. Is that cool?
Yeah, absolutely cool. And if you could, on the tail of that, I want to make sure people know like how to reach out to you, a little bit about your services. So tell us the story and then tell us how we could, learn more and connect with you.
All right, great. So one nugget from an execution standpoint for the audience is to train for life's biggest events. So if you're about to film the big video with Ryan and RC, or you're about to speak on stage, or you're having your quarterly team meeting, train for that. What does your morning look like? Are you nailing your workouts, hydration, nutrients? And so I'm blessed, as I mentioned before, to go to Sales Mastery and speak each year as a keynote speaker. So I was going for my 5th straight year 2 weeks ago. And I was heavily trained, just like I get ready for Ironman, just like I get ready for the Boston Marathon. And so I went there with an overflowing bucket. And at the end of the 3 days of leading morning workouts and speaking all 3 mornings, I was still at a 5. So I go over to the San Diego airport and I have lunch and I'm sitting there, and I had made my choice in the morning, just like I mentioned earlier, around choosing your positive voice. And I'm having a chicken sandwich for lunch. Guy walks by, he's got a bag on. and it's a bag. I can tell he's in the military. So my immediate thought is, I'm going to buy that guy lunch. And then my negative voice says, he hasn't even ordered lunch yet. How are you going to do that? And then I immediately fend that off and I go, it doesn't matter. I'll figure it out. And then I grab my wallet, had cash. I go over to him, shake his hand, thank him for his service, put $25 on the table. And I said, I'd like to buy you lunch. He said, you don't have to do that. And I said, yeah, you don't need to risk your life and give your time and effort to keep me and my family safe. I appreciate it. I shook his hand. That point of the story is important because then I went to Pete's Coffee and got in line, and the girl in front of me was nailing life. And what I mean by nailing life on a scale of 0 to 5, she was like a 10. She was fun and energetic and talking to the person behind the counter. She's probably like 18 or 19. And I was inspired by her display of greatness, which I think all of you guys are probably students. You can learn from anyone. And so when I went to grab my coffee, I said to her, I said, your parents must be world class. And she said, what? And I said, the way you show up to life is so inspiring. And all of a sudden she kind of teared up a little bit. And I said, I have a 4-year-old daughter. If she grows up to handle herself like you, I'm going to be the proudest parent on the planet. And this young girl starts crying and then says, thank you, and walks away. The point of those two stories are, those two stories created what was about to happen with my $100,000 conversation. Because then I was still at the coffee bar at Pete's Coffee. Then this guy walks up and he says, how you doing? And I say, I'm awesome. And then he steps back and he goes, what are you drinking? I think I ordered the wrong thing. Why are you awesome? And if you think of a mortgage person, if you're at Starbucks, someone asks you how you doing, you say awesome. Then they say, why are you awesome? And you go, I'm going to the office. I'm helping families get in the home of their dreams. I have a great team. I have a healthy family. Like, this is as good as it gets. I'm having an awesome day. How many conversations is that going to instigate? So long story short, this gentleman wanted me to unpack awesome. And I went into, I'm healthy. I got a roof over my head. I got food in the fridge. Just talked to this cool conference. I'm like jacked up. He's getting jacked up. And at the end, we share a little bit about what he's doing. He goes, do you want to have coffee with me? Which is kind of an interesting, I don't know if I've ever had anyone random be like, do you want to have coffee with me? And I said, sure. So we sit down. And when we sat down, we got in this conversation with his family and my family. And long story short, 45 minutes later, the conversation went to my next book coming out January 6th. And then he then said, well, I actually sell into Costco, BJ's, and Walmart. You're the lead decision.
That's awesome.
In all 3 book divisions. I want to represent your book. And I said, great. By the time I went to get on my plane, we had already worked out the rev share. The deal was done. I shook his hand. He's pitching my book to Walmart, BJ's, and Costco.
Wow.
And I don't know how many lives that's going to impact, but it all started with a couple things. I fended off my negative voice on the whole, like, it's weird. The military guy's going to think you're a weirdo. Second time I fended off my negative voice again on this young girl's going to think you're strange. What do you mean you're going to talk to her about her parents? And then the third thing is I had done my work to maintain my energy. At the end of this conference, I was still locked and loaded. And when the guy asked me, how are you doing? I was like, awesome. And then he felt it and then, instigated the conversation. And now it's not a layup for Costco, but it's going to happen.
That's awesome.
Love it. Like, boom, guys, mic drop. Sydney, whose job it is to create micro content from this. Let's get that in Instagram. That was beautiful, Jonathan. And wow, Todd, you asked the question to tee that up, so I'll let you close it out.
Well, I want to bring RC and Ryan back in. It's been a fun call because we've gone, a lot of different directions. I mean, how do you guys want to wrap it up and give some action plans here to our audience?
Man, that's an awesome story. I loved it. I'm a huge fans of yours and Jonathan and Dave. So I appreciate just having the conversation with you guys. But I think the moral of the story of just today's talk is just start implement at least some of the strategies. You have to have those disciplines, whether it's health and wellness, whether it's a new strategy. I have so many more questions for all 3 of you. I wish this could go longer. I'll hold on to those maybe for next time. But love that story, Jonathan. Awesome. And I'm going to steal that, and I'm going to try to authentically do that moving forward, man. That's a huge takeaway for me.
Yeah, no, you're an inspiration, Jonathan. Jonathan, for anyone on this call that wants to learn more from you, wants to sign up for your coaching, I know you've got a platform that I don't know how many mortgage coach people in the community are part of it, but how can people go to the next level with you?
So my company website's energyup.co. We stream live workout videos, and you can email through that if you're interested in what I call my peak performance coaching, where I'm blessed to lead people within the mortgage industry and others in how do you shift into that peak performance state where you achieve what I call peak performance lock-in, as I mentioned before, personally and professionally.
Love that. So guys, we'll put a link to that down below. For those of you that are getting value from Jonathan, I would love to, one, have Jonathan in the mortgage coach community more often, just reminding us to, be our awesomeness and to do the work and to be athletes. So Jonathan, I'll be reaching out more often. Hopefully you'll do it. And then those that are getting results from being part of his community, share in the community. Let us know what you're doing. Inspire each other. Mortgage coach is all about being the best. And part of that, like our product, helps you deliver that point of sale experience so that, if you're a fee worksheet loan officer, you are not looking like the bro of a mortgage coach. But imagine if you're using our software, you're going to Sales Mastery, asking great questions, and then you are from the inside out your best. I mean, that's a pretty good place to be. And then of course, guys, you're being video ninjas. So now you're creating content that can be shared on social media, which is where the world communicates now. So been an awesome call. Todd, why don't you wrap it up with any, Coach Todd, win by noon. How do we take action on today's call?
Well, it's funny. There's so many different ways I can go. I love this call more than I've loved a lot of calls that we've had lately. It was just kind of fun to get to hang out with you, RC and Ryan and Jonathan. I love this idea around energy. Obviously, that's my thing with Win by Noon is do your best, most important priorities when you have the most energy. And I think there's just a couple of other takeaways. I mean, Jonathan nailed it with the negative voice. I talked to so many of you that is your challenge. Yeah, I can't do that because I'm not as well-spoken as Ryan. Gosh, I don't have RC and Aaron to produce it, right? I can't get up tomorrow morning and work out. I can't, do little things. I mean, Jonathan said, hey, just make sure you're walking and talking on the phone to have more energy, right? So think about these things. And I think that as you go forward, look at what your negative voice is doing and comparing it to your positive voice, right? Have that level of commitment like Ryan had when he said, hey, I just wasn't happy with who I was and how I was feeling. And he made that commitment. So I know you guys can do it. It's always so much fun to be here on a Friday, especially when we get this big of a party. So thank you all. Dave, I'll give you the last couple words.
Guys, the call was awesome. Everybody knocked it out of the park. Thank you to everyone who took time to be on today's call. Hope you got value. If you liked it, you got something, you loved it, give it a love, give it a like. It will be posted into our YouTube channel so that you can share that publicly. This is in our Facebook group. And then I will be getting with Sid Savage and we will be taking some highlights from this and pushing it into IGTV on our Instagram channel. Guys, this call is a wrap. Thank you to our special guest. Appreciate you guys.
That was awesome.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, gentlemen.
RC and Ryan, thanks a ton. I'll circle back with you guys.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Take care, everybody.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Bye.